I put this in my engine bay and it almost went on fire. Hey kids, I'm in the shed, but I'm about to go outside, put a GoPro on my noggin and take you to the RS6 because today we're talking about heat management products. Some people do it for bling, some people do it because they've got genuine heat management concerns. That would be me with a tuned RS6. My thought was to talk to you a little bit about these heat reflective materials because this car has been impossibly hot and we've had to use a whole bunch of different versions of it. But there's a man over there with a digger and he's trying to carve holes in the street, so that might make this audio absolutely useless. Long story short, this car runs hotter than anything that I have ever encountered. And that causes a few problems. One is, this is the turbo inlet and you get lots of hot air going into the turbo instead because it runs directly over the exhaust manifold. This is obviously cold, so I was thinking about wrapping this up with some heat tape. There are some more immediate problems though. Here you'll notice that I've replaced the factory heat shield with gold reflective tape. This is made by Funk Motorsport. And you can see it's actually, the adhesive is coming off on this particular part. The factory heat shield is gone. I'm using this heat blanket. Now this was about £100 a square metre, and I've got some stuff which is super cheap inside. I'll show you that in a minute. But having that does the heat shielding while it being thinner, and Scott's patched that on together for me. The previous heat shield is this battered mess right here. Whoever had this car before me has had some down pipes fitted and they've used brute force to reform the heat shield. So this is a £200 part from Audi to replace it. So here was my plan. Instead of spending 200 quid and replacing another one of these, I thought I'll get something that is thinner and lighter and cooler. And so I have in here, and I'll put my head in the hole. You can see I have replaced it with this gold heat wrap. Now, this is as heat reflective as the standard part, which is good because these decap pipes run very, very hot. Not as hot as the catalytic converters did, but it does come with a few other problems. Problem number one, they don't bend down as sharply as the stock part, and so they were fouling on this heat shield, so having a thinner version of it will help. Right, now here's my plan, or here's why I'm even ordering this stuff from Funk Motorsport. This O2 sensor runs across the hottest part of the engine, and when the engine cover comes down on top, it squashes this heat shield, which is silicone wrapped, right? It should be heat proof. But this part here, this plastic connector, this is on the exhaust manifold for this bank. It is over one of the hottest parts of the engine, and I need to sleeve this somehow to protect it from the heat, because with the new downpipe position, the O2 sensor cable runs across the top rather than round the side. And so here I am, I'm going to have to get a few different types of heat shielding product to try. So here I'm going to be showing you my application for the Funk Motorsport tape and also some of the pros and cons of using it. But this is my unbiased review. I do have a good purpose for it because I'm worried about the amount of heat that's hitting the bulkhead here now that the factory heat shield's gone. I'm worried about the life of my O2 sensors, and I am... Oh, let me just uncoil that. And I definitely have a heat issue here right on the top of the engine. This is just the design of the RS6. There's lots of heat here. So standard, the catalyst switch set here can hit over 1000 degrees Celsius. Now with the decats in there, they'll hit up to about 800 degrees, and then on a normal run you'll maybe be averaging about 600 degrees. So we're talking about some serious heat, particularly right here where the engine cover sits over the top. And I need to protect some of these components because this plastic, this will not survive 800 degrees in this general area. These little heat pipe, these are Velcro sleeves that they make. This is some of it here. Velcro sleeving, which you can use to cover your lines and pipes and so on. So what I did was, I put some of the Velcro sleeving on it. This was sleeved over this section here. But it's melted. All the plastic Velcro has melted off. And you can see from this part here, it's started to scorch. That's a fire hazard if I ever saw one. And their advice was, well, make sure the Velcro side is pointed away from the heat. Or they said, buy the sewn in instead of the Velcro. So I spent more money. And I bought some of this sewn in stuff. So my plan is to use this to cover that O2 sensor, lead and run it back to front, or run it from the back to the front, covering up the O2 sensor socket, and then the pipe, or then the lead all the way, sleeving over this bracket. In fact, let me just do a quick test here. This is the biggest they do. They do a 30mm. Right, perfect. So that is actually going to go, and I'll be able to sleeve the entire thing, which is good news. So that's my plan, because the heat here means that if this is the hottest part of the engine, and this plastic socket is now resting directly above it, sandwiched underneath the engine cover, then it's going to melt. Like, that's bullshit. I can't have that. But anyway, this stuff was supposed to solve the problem, and instead it's actually created a fire hazard. So I can't have that. So Funk's response was not, hey, let's refund you. It was, hey, buy another product, don't put the plastic near the heat. So that wasn't particularly helpful. I mean, there's no instructions comes out. So you get this brochure which encourages you to buy more products, but no instructions, no guidance, no do and do not. So that's a bit tricky. What is the difference between the cheap Chinesium stuff and what you get from Funk Motorsport? Now let me try and show you. In fact, I'll probably go inside where it's a little bit warmer, and I'll show you some of the differences, because I have a whole bunch of different types of heat roll here to compare, and I'm doing all this on my GoPro today. I'm trying to do it with a single camera and see what we can learn.
Moments later,
I'm in the shed. It's a little bit echoey in here now, but at least there's no one drilling in the street and there's no wind. So I'm just going to talk you through some of the different products that I have in front of me. There's a whole lot here, so I'll just zoom in. Now, I have to point out that Funk Motorsport have nothing to do with this video. They don't even know I'm making it. I paid with my own money for all of this stuff. I'm going to be completely unbiased and objective when I do it. The main product that you'll see is this gold tape, right? This is heat reflective tape. Funk Motorsport make this. There's a couple of Australian companies make this, and you can also get very close copies of it. I have 3 different versions which have come from China to compare to the Funk Motorsport one, and I'm mostly going to talk about like the physical dimensions and the properties of it. No blowtorch tests here, because that's not how these products are designed to be used. They're not flameproof. They're not perfect. They reflect heat, particularly radiant heat. Heat in the air between the tape and a hot object. It reflects that heat, and because of some of the gold stuff, it also helps with some of the infrared heat. So starting off with the basics, this is 10 meters of Funk's heat reflective tape. They only make one thickness, and the gold stuff is £60 for 10 meters here. For comparison, here is a Chinese copy of it, which was $3 for 10 meters. Here is another one. This was 5 meters, $3. Now these two are, it looks like they're exactly the same material, so I might be able to discard that for now. The other thing is this silver stuff. This is just a silver sticker. This is just, it looks like vinyl or plastic adhesive or something. There doesn't appear to be any metal in this. I can't recommend putting this anywhere near your car. Certainly not if you have a heat problem. Let me compare these two. I'm going to cut off, I'm going to get some scissors, and then I'm going to cut off. No scissors, only have a knife. So, I don't know if you'll be able to see any difference between the two here. You could argue that the Funk is slightly thicker, but we're talking microns at this point. Let me do. So that reports as 0.2 of a millimeter. This one reports as 0.1 of a millimeter. So with some rounding, you could say it's twice as thick for all of the difference it'll make being so thin anyway. Now you can see that this cheaper stuff is more textured, whereas the Funk tape looks like it is smooth somehow. I don't know how that helps with reflection, but it's just a difference that I can see. In terms of the adhesive, let me just pull off the backing paper on both so we can see what we're dealing with here. Now from here, it's quite hard to see the difference between either of them. One could say that the Funk tape has a tighter and a more regular weave. If you look at this one, the stripes on it are sort of irregular, whereas the Funk tape looks more consistent, so it's probably going to be a stronger material to work with. So thicker, stronger, and I did do a flammability test. Yes, the Funk tape is less likely to burst into flames or to light, but you need to use a direct flame, which is not what these are meant to be. So in terms of manufacturing consistency, points to the Funk tape, but is it 20 times as good for 20 times the price? No. One could argue that, well, you just buy this cheaper stuff and put on multiple layers and you'd probably be good. The other point that I would mention is that this roll of tape, this has been sitting in a box for about 2 years. This has been sitting in a box for about 6 months, and you can see the adhesive is all starting to separate on this Funk Motorsport tape. Is that because it's a cardboard center? I don't know, but the adhesive is starting to give way on this. I will also say that any pipe that I have stuck this to, it has come unravelled. So you need to be really careful with cleaning the materials first before sticking any of these tapes, because the adhesive just comes off. Stickability tape, let's see if I can feel any difference in how adhesive they are. Nah, that's not a very scientific test, but in terms of stickability, I could. No, okay, there you go. The Funk. Yeah, the Funk tape definitely has a stronger adhesive property, but both of them, if you're not dealing with a perfectly clean surface, game's a bogey. Alright, so that's the basic tapes. Here's where I have a bit of a beef. This Velcro tape is for hot lines in your, or sorry, it's for protecting lines in your engine bay. That might be electrical lines, could be fuel, could be brake pipes, and this stuff is the cheapest that they do. This is their AN4 fitting. So this is like for diameters up to 7mm. Now this material is the same as what they make their heat blanket from. It's just cut and then this Velcro is sewn into it. Here's my beef with it. I put this in my engine bay and it almost went on fire. The Velcro is the weak spot and it has melted, and you can see that it is singed on this part here where it was near the heat of those turbos. Now, arguably, it's not supposed to be that close to the turbo, but when I emailed in, I was told don't put the Velcro near the heat, and also to buy the sewn-in one. So fair enough, I've bought some of the sewn-in stuff now, but please be careful. This Velcro stuff, this will melt and this will catch fire if you put this in your engine bay. I'll come back to the differences between these sewn tapes in a sec. I just want to talk about the blanket for a minute. Now, I bought this, I bought a section of blanket that was 70 centimetres by 60 centimetres, and that was £120. This piece is a Chinese copy. This cost $4. It is nowhere near as thick, so the stuff that's on the car is 0.6mm thick, this is 0.2 thick. So the stuff that's on the car is 3 times as thick, it has a stronger weave. The adhesive I can't tell any difference on. Now this is the Chinese Aliexpress blanket. You can see here this is much better manufacturing, consistency in the weave. This is pretty close to the Funk Motorsport tape that we were just looking at. That's very close. Certainly in terms of its weave, you could say it's so close that it could be made in the same factory. But that blanket was like $4 or $5 for the same size as I paid $120 for £120 for it. £120 for the blanket from Funk. Again, much thinner, so you probably have to build up several layers of it, but just to be objective about it, because I was replacing a firewall shield above a spot that gets to 800 degrees easily, I decided to spend the money and get the proper Funk stuff. Alright, so blanket off to one side. Let me talk to you about the sleeving. Now, after I mentioned to the Funk Motorsport guys that this stuff had almost gone on fire, and they just said, well, don't put it next to the heat, get the sewn stuff. So I got some of the sewn-in tape. Just for reference, by the way, this is £30 for half a metre. Actually, let me just confirm that. So this, the thinnest section stuff, that is £30 for a metre, and the sort of 10mm compatible stuff, well, what was it exactly? It is 15mm diameter, this one. This is £45 a metre. But again, both are Velcro, and so I can't use this now, because if I put it in the car, it's going to melt. So I've spent, what is that? That is £90 on Velcro heat tape, and I can't use it because it's going to melt and go on fire. So here I've spent some more of my own money to get the sewn version that they recommend. Now, what I must say is that the guys were great, because their website chat function, I have messaged them late at night a whole bunch of times, and they've been nothing but helpful. They've been absolutely perfect for that. This Velcro stuff just hasn't worked for me. I can't have a fire risk in my engine bay. So here's the two sewn sleeves that they do. Now, let me get my prices right here, because this stuff is expensive also. This is their gold heat sleeving. This is the 30mm stuff, because I need this to sleeve over the O2 sensor connector, and so I got 30mm, and this is £70 a metre for this stuff. They also have the silver stuff, but there are some differences here which I'm going to tell you about. First of all, the difference is that this is way cheaper. This is about £40 a metre, and the gold is about £70 a metre. I hope I get all these prices right when I'm reviewing this video, because re-editing this will be a pain in the neck. Alright, the most obvious there, as soon as you pick this up, you can feel, right, well, these two are not the same. You can just tell. I don't know if colour reflectiveness is going to make any difference, but thickness definitely will. Peek inside there, I don't know if you can see inside. It's the same sort of weave we've seen on the other parts. Very tight, very consistent, and this one is 0.4mm thick. The gold is 0.6mm, sorry, let me bring that back in, 0.6mm thick. So the gold stuff is twice the thickness of the silver. The idea behind the sewn tape is that there's no plastic to melt, except I bet these little things will go on fire. So of course, I'm going to have to cut these tags off before I can put this in my engine bay. Or maybe I could use the section that doesn't have a tag on it. So this is what I'm going to use now to cover up my O2 sensor and the lead that goes over the top of the turbo manifold. Now, there is so much heat in that area. I get it. I'm pushing the limits of what's possible with this stuff. But the Velcro is just not an option because it might go on fire. The Chinese stuff, sorry, that's the Funk Motorsport stuff. Haha, so easy to tell the difference. This is the Chinese stuff. It isn't as good. It's not as thick. I can't believe that it's going to be as reflective. This stuff is stickier and thicker, and I expect it to perform better. This is what I'm going to put in my engine bay. This gold one, this is what I'm going to use for my O2 sleeving. And the silver one, maybe since I've got it spare, I'll use it to cover up some coolant lines maybe, or some more of the turbo piping that's under the engine bay. And my blanket is already in place. I don't need to use this Chinesium blanket because I already have the proper expensive Funk Motorsport stuff in there. So here we are, full disclosure, Funk Motorsport don't have anything to do with this video, but they are a company with a product that's out on the market. This Velcro plastic thing as a heat reflective thing, this is pish. Don't put that anywhere near your car if it's going to be hot. Get the sewn in stuff, which is still a good product. The disadvantage is that you have to unconnect everything in order to sleeve this over the pipes that you're going to use. The tape, I'm on the fence about the tape, because multi-layered cheap stuff is probably going to be just as good, and it's going to be way cheaper. And if you're in this for the aesthetic, if you don't really need something to be heat-proof, you could just wrap it with cheap crap tape and it'll be fine. The blanket, on the other hand, the knockoff stuff is way thinner, the adhesive isn't as strong. So if I'm replacing a factory firewall, I think it's the right decision to use the proper Funk Motorsport or a competitor product. There's some other ones like I think DEI or DCI, some Australian company that make these as well. Now the reason I'm talking about Funk is because I've spent close to 400 quid on their products by this point. I am pleased with most of them. The only thing I have a problem with is the melting Velcro, but I can't fault their customer service. Their shipping comes in 48 hours and they have a range of products to meet your needs. Just get rid of that Velcro stuff. There needs to be a better way. There needs to be a better way, because imagine if that plastic melted and started dripping on the exhaust manifold or started dripping on the downpipes. that's not a good thing, especially in a performance vehicle which is going to run hot anyway, or if you're in a race car and it isn't insured for fire, that's a bad time. Alright, so where am I at? I am down £400 of my own money. I've got some spares which I can use for the drift bureau, because I can start patching up some of the sections on there for the gold tape. If you have a legitimate heat management need, spend the money, right? Don't, if you're worried about extreme heat in your engine bay or anywhere else, spend the money. Fire is no joke. And on that note, don't put plastic Velcro stuff in your engine bay. But spend the money on the good stuff if you're worried about heat management. If you're just in it for the aesthetics, if you just want shinies in your engine bay, then buy any old garbage. It doesn't matter. Get some of this. My tip would be, if you're in it for the aesthetics, get some of this blanket stuff off Aliexpress and cut out the shapes that you need and stick it on, because it's way thicker than the Chinese tapes that you can get on Aliexpress. So buy some of that blanket. But as I say, if you've got a proper heat management need, if you're in motorsport or if you've got a performance vehicle, spend the money. Fire is no joke, but no Velcro. This video is not sponsored. Hopefully I don't get sued. I love the company, I really like the brand, I like the products. I just don't like the Velcro. I can't fault the guys, they've been nothing but helpful. I now need to cut some of this up into sections, and I'm going to fit it to the RS6 because we've got a dyno day coming up. Because the RS6 is no longer on a stock tune. That's probably why it's so hot. Anyway, let us know in the comments below what you think. If this comes across as a funk bashing, it's not supposed to. I love the company, I love the products, I just don't love their Velcro. Thank you very much for everybody for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Leave a comment down below if you're enjoying what you're seeing, and subscribe if you haven't already. Take care of yourselves, everyone, make good decisions, and I'll see you in the next video. The next video, I'll probably have a full-on garage, and I'll be able to make videos with, you know, branding and lights and all sorts. Looking forward to it. Take care, everyone. Bye.